We are live.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'll remind everyone to please disclose of any pecuniary interests at the appropriate time. And we will go to the council minutes of the April 12th regular council meeting. We need a motion to receive and file those minutes. Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Any errors or omissions, questions about those minutes? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We are going to go down to the scheduled meetings and events. There is, all the meetings are listed there, and our amazing staff keeps us updated on all of that. And we do have a virtual conference coming up. If anyone is interested in joining that, you're more than welcome. And we welcome delegation requests for that conference as well, if anyone has any thoughts or suggestions on that. We will go down to councillor commitments and verbal items. Does anyone have any commitments that they would like to change today? Seeing none, we're going to go around the screen. I'm going to start with Councillor Morris today. Oh, you are muted, Councillor Morris.
There, that's better. I have two. The first one, I think I know the answer, but there's a circle around Watford on our official plan. Now, I understand that's for livestock building can't be done in that circle.
I believe it's residentially zoned area, like.
No, it's zoned agriculture still, but there's
Right.
a circle. We put a circle around it, and I think that was a no-build livestock circle, wasn't it? I think.
Yes.
Yes.
My question is, can manures be spread in that circle? I had a complaint. Yeah, well, that's what I thought, but I said I'd ask for sure. I told them I was pretty sure it could be. But the other one, we have a ratepayer that's getting quite involved with the county regarding woodlawn inspections. This is a property that is on Kings Court Road, the west half of Lot 6, Concession 4. A lot of bulldozing of trees have gone on. They've totally left the cliffs to the creek there. And I'd like to get a copy of the Woodlawn Inspector's report, if I could, from the county and find out if they had a permit or not. I am really surprised that St. Clair Conservation Area would allow them to do the bulldozing like that around the creek, but I could be wrong.
Councillor Westgate, did you want to comment on that?
This is the one we talked about at our last meeting that I brought up. And I think they had a permit for on top, but not on the sides of the creek there. And they're quite steep there. And the Conservation Authority didn't know about it at the time when it was bulldozed out. So I think they have stopped there, have they not?
Well, everything's gone pretty well now, Jerry. I was there today.
Well, it was all gone before. It was all bulldozed out. But did they change the slope on the?
No, not yet.
And they were going to do that. They were going to farm right down to the creek.
Yeah, that's what I figured they were going to do.
But I'm hoping that they have stopped that. And the farmer.
I'm hoping they have to replant in that part that's subject to erosion. But anyway, I'd like to see what the county had to say on it if I could.
Amanda, did you want to comment?
I was just going to say we can take that request, Councillor Morris, as direction, and we'll follow up with the county and update council on what we find out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I wish we would have thought of that last meeting, Wayne, or Councillor Morris. I drove by there myself and I was shocked at the steepness of the hills going down towards the creek, and there's just no way that you could farm without the topsoil getting eroded into that creek. I wouldn't think, but.
Well, they were going to smooth it all out and slope it towards the creek.
it's pretty steep.
on my understanding.
Yeah, they're gonna flatten her out.
But you could flatten it out with the dozer they had there quite quickly.
Is that allowed though, Councillor Westgate?
As far as I'm concerned, no. And as far as the Conservation Authority, I'm quite sure it's no. And they didn't have a permit to do the slopes, I'm quite sure.
Right.
And
Well-
I have all the emails that that have gone through the county to the person that's been dealing with it out there and that lives on that road.
Okay. So
That's
that's
all I
good.
have.
We'll have staff look into that. Thank you very much, Councillor Morris.
Thank you.
We will go to Councillor Westgate.
I have nothing today.
Okay, Councillor Mitchell.
The only thing I had was, but I see it's in our action correspondence today, so I'll just wait till then and we'll go from there.
Okay,
Everything's good though.
great. Councillor White.
Nothing for me.
Okay, I'm just going to update council on what is happening with our Lambton OPP detachment. We are looking at the OPP board and the mayors from Lambton Shores, Petrolia, Plimpton, Wyoming, St. Clair, and Don Euphemia, Brook Elvingston, and Warwick all met last Friday. And there's a way that the board has to be set up so that there are 20% is community representatives, 20% is provincial appointees, and 60% of the board is municipal representatives. In the past, we have had, I believe, 3 municipal representatives and 1 community and 1 provincial. And many of the mayors felt like they were not being represented on the board and wanted to expand the size of the board. And so what we came up with as a group was to have 6 municipal representatives, 2 community representatives, and 2 provincial appointees. So the way we kind of based it was on population size. So Lambton Shores, Petrolia, and Plimpton, Wyoming, and St. Clair would each have a representative. Don Euphemia, Oil Springs, and Enniskillen would jointly appoint a representative, and Warwick and Brook Elvingston together would jointly appoint a representative. And I've been told that we need confirmation from each council in order to go forward to the province with this proposal. So I'm looking to see if council is okay with that setup and for us to go forward with that to the province, to the Solicitor General. Councillor Mitchell?
I just wanted to declare a conflict in that one. That's the ministry I work for, so I won't.
Oh, okay, I never
I'll
even
just
thought
have
of
to
that.
recuse myself from the vote and all dealings with that one. Sorry.
No problem, thank you. Sorry for bringing that up. This was just something that came across my desk today, so I didn't get a chance to send it to staff. I was just hoping to have it dealt with today because otherwise we'd have to wait another 3 weeks to be able to get back to the whole group. Councillor Morris.
I think it's a good idea. We put a lot of money into that. Our budget is a good chunk of that.
Yes,
More representation by elected officials, I think, is a good idea.
that was the feeling. That's exactly the feeling that a lot of the smaller municipalities had was, you know, we put a lot of our budget into this and we don't have a whole lot. And I don't know how much say the board has specifically, but I know that it is good to have that representation on the board. So did you want to move that we go forward with that or that we accept those recommendations? Or Councillor Westgate, did you have a question?
What would we do with Brook Elvingston? Just switch off every other term or?
I think that's the idea, is that it was brought that it could be switched every 2 years, but there is considerable training involved to sit on this board apparently. And so we thought every term would be the way to do it. So 1 term Brook Elvingston would set a representative and one term Warwick or vice versa. So that each municipality has an opportunity to sit.
Well, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you want to make that motion?
Yes.
And Councillor Morris, you want to second it?
Yes, I do.
Any other questions or discussion on that? Staff, are you okay with that motion? Amanda, I can forward you the email just for clarification again. And it will, just so that people are aware, so that our council is aware, it will increase the budget slightly in order to go forward with this. There's the per diem for each meeting for each councillor, so it will increase the budget, but it won't be like a massive increase when you look at comparable to what we pay outside of. Amanda?
Mayor Rumba, thanks. I just have a question, if I may. I just see the email you sent me now before the meeting. And is this proposal for a restructured committee, is it going to the Ministry of the Solicitor General for consideration and approval as feedback rather than it automatically taking effect? So it's a recommendation and we would need to wait to hear back with their approval. Is that
Yes.
correct?
But I
Okay,
believe it
thank you.
said, understand that, just one sec, assuming the foregoing is approved by the province, of the 6 municipal representatives, it is the desire, sorry. I believe they wanted all of the councils to review and approve before they went. Before I do so, however, I suggest that each municipality's agreement to this proposal be obtained. To that end, to assist in this regard, I'm attaching a memorandum that can be circulated to each municipality for their respective council's review and approval.
Thank
So-
you for that clarification. Yeah, and for council, I will send out the correspondence Mayor Rumbutz is referring to for your information and also include on our next agenda just so that it's public as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of that? That is carried. I'm assuming, Councillor White, you're good with that?
I'm good.
Okay. We are going to go down to staff items. 8A is a verbal update from Amanda Gubbles on the notice of advertising for the 100-acre joint farm lease, land lease with Waste Management.
Thank you, Mayor Rumbutz. So essentially the written notice is all the notices. So we have a lease expiring, our joint land lease with Waste Management for almost 100 acres at the end of this year. So we've already extended the lease once. I did correspond with Waste Management who would like to pursue a tender. So I will be contacting the current leasee to let them know and completing that process. I just didn't want you to be surprised by an advertisement in the newspaper that you didn't know about. So it will be forthcoming.
Thank you. And a verbal update from Amanda on the AMO delegations.
Thanks. Mayor Rumbutz, I think you already covered this for me. The AMO conference is coming up and we do have a couple delegations that we're considering, but nothing finalized, and welcome everyone's input, suggestions, and feedback so we can get those in by the deadline. But we still have a bit of time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And we have no delegations or timed events tonight, so we're going to go down to 10A, which is the copy of the GL report. Any question, or we did need a motion to receive and file that report. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor White. Any questions or comments? Trevor, is there anything you wanted to highlight?
Not this go around, it's pretty standard.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor of receiving and filing that report? Thank you. That is carried. We'll go down to non-action correspondence. Is there anything anybody wants to highlight from the non-action correspondence tonight? Councillor Morris.
Yeah, I think it's 5-20. It's from the town of Cochrane supporting volunteer fire departments and infrastructure programs to help them get equipment. I'd like to support that one.
Okay, do we have a seconder to that? Councillor Mitchell, any questions or comments on that? All in favor of supporting that resolution? That is carried. Thank you for that, Councillor Morris. Anything else that council wants to highlight today? Seeing none, who wants to give a motion to receive and file the remainder of the correspondence? Councillor White and seconded by Councillor Morris. All in favor? That is carried. We will go down to the action correspondence. The first was a letter from Karen Woods on the yard waste service at Twin Creeks Landfill. I did speak to Karen today, and she was quite happy with her conversation with Andrew Maver. So I'm going to let him give the council an update on that conversation. And then she gave me one other tip that I wanted to bring to council's attention. So Andrew, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Thanks, Mayor Roundbouts. So I did have a chance to speak with Karen, and so prior to that, I did approach Waste Management because I did take a visit to the facility, to the new yard waste facility drop-off, and I did notice that there could be some improvements to signage. So I spoke with Waste Management, and they've committed to improvements to the signage out there for our residents. So that was encouraging, and they did assure me that the materials that were placed in the bin that weren't yard waste materials were being separated and disposed of correctly. So that was encouraging. And then, of course, I did speak to her about the arena ice, and I believe she was satisfied with the answer on that. So, is there any other questions regarding the letter?
I appreciate you following up on that, Andrew. And like I said, I did talk to Karen. She did mention that she was talking to a resident who had brought brush only to the facility, and they charged that resident $20.
What?
So I know, that's what I said. So we will follow up with John McDonald tomorrow. I believe Amanda and Trevor and I have a meeting with him tomorrow. So we'll bring that to his attention, and we'll get that rectified, hopefully in the near future, because we don't want that. We can't have residents being charged for brush waste. So Councillor Westgate.
I had the opportunity to take for my grandson about 4 or 5 loads out there on the weekend, and the bin was overflowing, but I stopped at the gate on the way out and asked him to push it down. And she said she didn't know whether she could or not because it was Saturday and they didn't have much staff in. But I noticed the backhoe came right out and pushed it down. So, and I thought everything was great going in there and throwing it off, better than throwing it off in the ground uptown.
Okay, thank you for that information. Does anyone else have any follow-up to that? Okay, then we will move on to the next letter. There's a few letters that are all the same here for council. I don't know if, Andrew, if you want to speak to that.
Certainly. So I guess first of all, council has the authority to implement any stop sign they wish under bylaw. In this particular situation, I would ask that direction be given to staff to prepare a report. There are multiple things in this letter that does require investigation. So traffic volumes, different warrants under the OTM manual number 5 that are required in order to, put up a stop sign. There's a lot of warrants that it has to follow. So I would ask for direction to prepare a report for some investigation prior to making any decisions.
Councillor White?
I'll make the recommendation that we provide direction to Andrew to get a report together and do his investigation.
Okay, do we have a seconder to that? Councillor Mitchell? Any other questions, comments on that before we move on?
I just want to really thank, Andrew for that. It's been kind of brought to my attention here, living here and having the street redone. Although everybody is really enjoying that new surface and the new curbs, there's just a number of ongoing things that the letter sort of addressed, and I'm just happy to, hopefully this was done in the proper way, and all of our residents' voices are heard, and that's fantastic. So thanks, everybody.
Councillor Westgate.
I'm just wondering, we have lots of streets in town besides Warwick Street out in front of my place here, where if they park on both sides, there's not room to meet traffic. I'm just wondering if we should look at, when you're doing this, to look at other streets too and see if we should be putting no parking signs on one side of the street like we have in other places. I know that out in front of my place here, Union Gas was there one day and they had both sides blocked or parked on both sides all the way down the whole block. So it was hard to get through. Now with the work going on in the house in the corner, there's some days where there's lots of trucks parked out front. And I think that's part of the problem here on Warwick Street, because I've never seen it before like that in any other time as long as I've been here.
Now that you guys have mentioned that, I did have a resident one time ask me about that problem as well. They said our street is just too narrow to have cars parked on both sides of it. So they had requested that we look into that, and I completely forgot about it. So I'm glad that this has come up. Is that possible, Andrew, to look at some of the other streets?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. We can look at street widths and certainly traffic volume plays a role.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Any
know
other questions?
In
sorry.
Glencoe, they have it like that, parked on one side, a lot of places.
And where, sorry?
In Glencoe.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of the smaller towns tend to have that, where you have one side of the street where you're allowed to park and one side that you're not, similar to like you have one side that has sidewalks and one side that doesn't. So, okay, is there any other discussion on that? All in favor of that motion? That is carried. So we look forward to seeing Andrew's report. And if everyone's happy, we do need a motion to receive and file the remainder of the action correspondence. Councillor White and Councillor Morris, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. We're going to move down to staff reports. 13A is a report on the project update for the township office building. We need a motion to receive and file that report. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate. Any questions or comments on that report? All in favor? That is carried. And we'll go down to B, current municipal service levels and COVID-19 impacts. We need a motion to receive and file that. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, all in favor. That is carried. We'll go down to C, which is the policy on public recruitment, selection, and appointments to committees and boards. There is a recommendation from staff on that. How does council want to deal with that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Any questions or comments on that? Councillor Morris.
Do we really think for somebody to sit on the cemetery board that we need to have interviews? I don't know. It just seems like.
It's a good question. Amanda, did you want to respond to that?
Sure. Great question, Councillor Morris, and it's completely up to council's discretion. So this is a new draft policy based on a few others that we've seen. It doesn't mean that we need to adopt that process. So it's just proposed, and if council would like to adopt a process that is, similar to what we have now, we can absolutely do that. Or something different. We would just need some direction about what you're looking for. And I think when I speak for our clerk's department, when I say, we're not tied, to this. So if council wants to make any changes, we're happy to take that feedback.
Councillor Westgate.
Maybe not a full-fledged interview, but a phone call, making sure that the person knows what they're getting into
Yeah,
and
that's
when
okay.
the meetings are. And just so they know what's going to happen when they do get on that committee. I don't think would hurt.
I think that's a great
Just an
idea.
interview over the phone.
I just don't think official type interviews,
Right.
we have a hard time getting people sometimes. It might scare them away if they hear about that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Councillor Morris. I don't think many people from the community would want to come and sit in front of
No.
all of council for something like that, although we're a pretty friendly group. But I think that's a good idea, Councillor Westgate, to add the consultation maybe with our CAO clerk, just to kind of update them on what the position entails and how much of a time commitment it is and all of that. So other than the interview process, is council okay with the rest of the report? So we will go forward with accepting the motion with the amendments discussed. Is that good with the mover and seconder? Yes. Okay, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We will go down to D, the Infrastructure Ontario funding. We need a motion to receive and file that report. Councillor White and Councillor Morris, any questions or comments on that report? Councillor Morris.
Just a question for Trevor. If for some reason we ended up with a wheelbarrow full of cash from somewhere, can we pay this off, a chunk off early?
Once you lock into it, you're locked into it for whatever the term is. However, if we get a wheelbarrow of cash, we don't have to lock in until we'll probably know if we have that wheelbarrow of cash.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a great question, Councillor Morris. I would love a wheelbarrow of cash for this project. It would be fantastic.
I believe it's 40 million tomorrow night for the lottery, so.
Is that in the budget to buy a ticket? Can you imagine? Councillor Mitchell, did you have a question or comment on that? No?
No, just 2 wheelbarrows would be good.
Yes. Any other questions or comments on that report? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And we'll go down to E, the proposed site plan application and deposit fee updates. There is a staff recommendation attached to that report. How does council want to deal with that recommendation? Moved by Councillor White. Seconded by Councillor Westgate. Questions or comments on that report? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And F, the construction progress report for the East Lambton Community Complex construction progress. Need a mover and a seconder to receive and file that report. Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Any questions or comments on that? It's quite exciting. I think staff has had some fun meeting with the contractors and very exciting coming up. Councillor Morris, did you have a question or comment? You're muted. Wayne, you're muted.
Sorry. There is one sentence I'd like you to read. I believe the last one about starting date. I'd like to get that public so everybody that's listening can hear.
Starting date. Do you want to read it for us?
No, you go ahead.
I'm trying to find it.
Under discussion, last line.
As such, it may be that the amount for the long-term loan,
No.
no,
Anyway,
Oh.
it says the East Lambton Community Complex construction is anticipated to start May 17th. I think that's awesome.
that is exciting. Thank you for highlighting that date, May 17th. All right. Councillor Westgate, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just have a question. Oh, excuse me. You don't think we'll better rent out the ice surface if they say minor hockey wants to use it for a dance?
It's a
At the
good question.
Corn Fest, we always have it rented out for the Corn Fest for sure, probably once or twice a week, or once or twice a month. I thought maybe we could still use the ice surface part, even if they have to come in the side door where we closed it down when they did the last renovation.
Teresa, did you want to speak to that question?
Yes, Mayor Rumboats, there's actually another report coming up that deals with this. So would it be okay to respond to Councillor Westgate's question at that time? Would that be appropriate?
Yes, the next report is on the Watford Community Arena summer operations during construction. So they're two separate reports.
Sorry,
That's okay. So we'll move receive and file the report on the update. And we already have a mover and a seconder. All in favor of that? That is carried. And we'll move on to H, which is the Watford Community Arena summer operations during construction report. And we do have a question on the floor, Teresa, so I'm going to ask you to speak to that.
Yes, Mayor Rumboats. So during our pre-construction meeting last week, one of the things that we needed to review was a safety plan on how the arena amenities could be used during construction. The concern is where we're working, including overhead of the arena, would create some health and safety issues for us under the construction project, even to the point of getting in and out of the arena. That's not to say that because Corn Fest is in August, that we might be in better shape for that, or a one-time off event might be okay on a weekend. It's when they're working specifically during the week that if we had, like, say, ball hockey running, that we would have to sort of work around that, or they'd have to work around us.
Just a thought on that. I'm wondering if they did want to do the Cornfest dance. We have decommissioned the front diamond and there is this space to that area. Is it possible to like fence that off and do an outdoor open air dance?
That area will be complete construction site.
Okay.
So the places that we could look at an open air dance would be possibly the track area. Yeah, so definitely working with users, Councillor Westgate, on other possible ways to complete their programs. Yeah, we can definitely look at that, but for starting out, definitely. And the other thing is too, is that we don't want to put our timelines behind by having to move things like construction sites, move things in and out, tear down, set up as we go through the process.
Councillor Westgate?
Yes, I agree it should be shut down during the day and during the week. But I'm thinking if we could use the ice surface, there's no construction being done out there. You can block off the doors going back to the dressing rooms. You can block off the doors coming in the front and just keep it to the ice surface if they want it and if we can do it this year.
Yeah.
That was the other consideration, right? Is we don't even know what is going to be allowed and what isn't at this point in August. So it makes it tough. But I'm sure that Teresa is more than willing to work with our user groups to make the community events happen if we possibly can. It would be great if we could. I would love to go to a Cornfest dance at this point, but we will have to see what's available and what isn't. The goal, Teresa, is to get the arena renovations done before the programming starts in the fall, is it not?
Yes, and so we'll be focusing there first to get that, and especially the overhead work. And even with the construction that's going on, we've modified for safety reasons, staff entrance and exit, and office space and staff room to accommodate the construction, so that as staff, we are also not in the construction zone.
Okay. Any other questions about that recommendation? I don't think that I got a mover and a seconder for that recommendation at the start of this discussion. So we'll get Councillor Morris and Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. We'll go to 14A, the committee minutes.
Mayor Randall?
Yes,
So I'm
sorry.
sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you for a moment. We missed report G, the PNR 22 on capital fundraising campaign update.
You are right. Thank you for that. Okay,
No
we have a
problem.
report on the capital fundraising campaign. We need a mover and a seconder to receive and file that report. Sorry, Councillor Westgate and Councillor Mitchell. Any questions or comments on that report? Glad to see that fundraising campaign is coming along. We look forward to more information about that coming up. All in
How is the
favor?
committee coming?
It's in
Oh.
progress.
Okay,
Still in progress. All in favor? That is carried. If I have not missed any other staff reports, I thank you, Amanda, for correcting me on that one. We'll go to the minutes of the Development Committee meeting for April 12th. We need a mover and a seconder to receive and file those minutes. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Morris. All in favor? That is carried. The minutes of the special council meeting of April 20th. Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? Just stop me, everyone, if I get to something that you want to speak to. We're going to go to the minutes of the Warwick Township Cemetery Board. Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Councillor White. Any questions to our chair or anything you wanted to highlight?
No,
Chair
it
Morris?
was pretty well standard. We do have 2 new members, which I'm glad to see. So that was really good. They seem to be quite wanting to be involved, so I like that.
That's great. I always liked that committee. It's a great committee. All right, all in favor of that? That is carried. The minutes of the Development Committee for April 26, 2021. Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. And the minutes of the special council meeting of April 27th. Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. All right, council, we've gotten to our closed meeting session. We do need a motion to move into in-camera. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And we will let you go. We will be returning into open session just to bless the minutes of the in-camera meeting and to close out this meeting. But we wish you all a happy night. Amanda, did you have anything to add?
Just one small note, Mayor Rumbas, we did miss 15A, new business, the remuneration. We're just speeding through today so much.
I'm telling you,
Exciting.
sorry about that.
And it's just a receive and file motion for 2020 remuneration for council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morris
All in
and
favor.
Councillor Mitchell. All in favor. Sorry, guys. I have new puppies. I need to get upstairs to help them, so I'm a little rushed tonight. Sorry about that. So that is all in favor. That is carried. And all in favor of moving into closed session. That is carried. Thank you all for joining us again. Thank